I have just uncovered a new piece of Silksong lore, which is incredibly vital to the story and 100% true. And that is that Lost Lace, is a Spanish Pokemon. Now this may seem a bit of an odd theory, but I have evidence to support my claim. Let's start with her dialogue and what she says in the fight. Did you hear that? She said, quiero. Quiero means I want in Spanish. Which is clearly, again, clearly a Spanish word. And did you hear that? She said, pica. Which is like what Pikachu would say. Quiero and pica.
Pika pika.
Quiero. The fact that she says quiero, which is a clear Spanish word, the rest of it's just noises. So there's no other languages in there, it's only Spanish. Apart from pica, which is definitely what Pikachu would say, because, well, that's what Pikachu would say. Which could show that she, well, either is a Pokemon or a fan of Pokemon. Also, the fact that she's very loud and quite theatrical and everything. Not to stereotype here, but Spanish people are quite loud, quite theatrical, like to talk, blah blah blah, which could further support that claim, as well as the fact that she's down in the abyss, which might seem counterintuitive, but actually, Spanish people are very sensible. They live in a very hot country, and they know that what they want to do is stay in the shade and keep cool. There's that saying, only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. So she goes to the abyss to stay out of the sun and keep cool, which is clearly behaviour of someone who lives in a hot country. Not only this, but if you notice the sort of fight that you have here with Grandmother Silk in the background, Grandmother Silk is like a Pokemon trainer. She's sort of sitting by, letting the Pokemon do all the work, and in the background, and that's like a Pokemon fight with the trainers in the background and the Pokemon actually fighting. So you're sort of the trainer of Hornet, I suppose. So Team Cherry is clearly inspired by Pokemon here, and clearly Lace is a Pokemon as well as Spanish, which I know is very hard to take in, but it's clearly true. It's just like how NKG was French. Also, the fact that Lace is like a dancer, because Spain is very famous for its dancing, and the music here is very sort of upbeat, tense, and it's like a dance between the fights, but with Lace especially feel like a dance, which could also allude to Spanish culture, as there is a lot of dancing in the Spanish culture. However, what normally happens is Pokemon can only say their names, whereas Lace is able to say Spanish words as well, which could imply that she's merely a fan of Pokemon and pretends to be one, which as like acting as a Pokemon, which links back to our earlier point about her being theatrical, which really does show that she's Spanish and related to Pokemon in some way. Team Cherry is very clearly inspired by Pokemon. It also makes sense because she's really difficult to defeat, and as we know, Spain is very difficult to defeat at football. So the fact that Lace is incredibly difficult to beat will show that she's Spanish and has that degree of skill and training that comes from the culture. So overall, due to these points, that she speaks Spanish, she's loud and theatrical, she dances a lot, she also says Pokemon words, The fight has a layout like that of a Pokemon battle. The fact that she stays out of the sun in the shade of the abyss. The fact that she's incredibly difficult to beat and has a lot of skill and everything. But all imply that she's Spanish and has something to do with Pokemon. I don't know what. Perhaps she thinks she's a Pokemon. She acts as a Pokemon. But there is a clear and undeniable link here between Lace, Spain, and Pokemon. And if you deny that, then I don't know what you're on about. This is vital to the story of Silksong. Absolutely vital. Perhaps Farloom is a metaphor for Spain. Team Cherry's really thought about the lore here. But anyway, yes, this theory is most certainly true, and I do not doubt it for an instant. Thank you for watching. I hope you agree with my theory, because it's true. And I'll see you next time.
Pika